When you get on a plane and you see the cabin crew greeting you at the door, what do you really see? Because beyond the smiles, the uniforms, and that classic coffee or tea question, there is a secret playbook. And trust me, it's designed for situations way more serious than just running out of your favorite snack.
For most of us, this is pretty much the whole job, right? They're the friendly faces making sure our trip is smooth. Getting you a blanket, helping you stuff that oversized bag into the overhead bin. It really seems like their main job is all about customer comfort.
But what happens when you peel back that layer of service? Well, you find a completely different reality. Because when you're 30,000 feet in the air, the script can flip in a heartbeat. And when it does, things get incredibly serious, incredibly fast.
So, that really brings us to the big question here. What is their most important job? I'm willing to bet the answer is not what you think. And we know the answer because it's laid out, plain as day, in their own training manuals.
And look at this list. I'm not being metaphorical here. This is literally a job description taken from their training materials. They are trained to be all of these things: diplomats, police officers, even lifesavers. So let's open up this secret playbook and see exactly how they do it.
All right, let's start on page 1 of the playbook. This part covers the kind of minor turbulence that, if you fly a lot, you've probably seen happen. Those small everyday problems.
Oh yeah, we've all been there. Your screen is frozen, the audio's busted, or maybe the person next to you has their reading light glaring in your face while you're trying to sleep. The manual actually calls these minor passenger problems.
Now, their response to this stuff isn't random. It's a clear 3-step protocol. You can see it right here. First, they ask for information. Second, they deal with the problem. And third, they get back to the passenger. It's a simple but super efficient system for any little issue that pops up.
Let's really focus on that first step, finding out what's wrong. The language they use is so important here. Phrases like, "What's the matter?" or "How can I help you?" They're intentionally open and really calm. The whole goal is to shut down any frustration right away and just establish a helpful, "we're going to solve this" vibe.
Okay, now for step 2, taking action. After they figure out the problem, their language immediately shifts to reassurance. Notice the phrasing here. "I'll get it for you. I'll check on that." That constant use of "I'll" is a deliberate choice. It's a technique to signal that they're taking ownership, which makes you, the passenger, feel heard and taken care of.
So that's the playbook for technical glitches. But what happens when the problem isn't a broken screen, but maybe a broken temper? Well, this is where the flight attendant has to become a full-on diplomat.
And wow, the range of potential conflicts here is just huge. It can be anything from stuff the crew has zero control over, like flight delays, to personal arguments between passengers about seats or noise. Every single one of these requires some seriously careful diplomatic maneuvering.
And just like before, there's a formula for it. Check this out. The diplomat's formula. First, you sympathize. That validates the passenger's feelings. Then, you apologize, which takes accountability. And only then do you move on to finding a solution. It is a seriously powerful way to de-escalate a tense situation.
So here's that formula in action. Let's say a passenger complains about a noisy group nearby. Instead of going over and starting a confrontation, the crew member sympathizes with the person complaining and offers a solution just for them. "Hey, let me find you another seat." This solves their problem without making the bigger conflict worse. It's brilliant, really.
And get this, the apology itself is this whole multi-step process. It's not just a quick "sorry about that." No, there's a full apology, then an explanation for the problem, and then another brief apology at the end. This whole structure is designed to show sincerity and understanding, which can totally disarm someone who's angry or frustrated.
But sometimes no amount of diplomacy is going to work. Sometimes a passenger just crosses a line, and that is when the friendly service professional completely vanishes and the enforcer has to step up. This is the scenario that every single crew member trains for, but really, really hopes they never have to face. When a passenger's behavior goes from just being disruptive to actually being dangerous, the playbook completely changes.
Okay, now we are in full-on code red territory. We're talking about things that directly threaten the safety of the entire flight. Stuff like smoking in the bathroom, which is a huge fire hazard, or messing with an exit door. Actions like these trigger a completely different set of rules.
And just listen to how the language completely flips. All the polite requests are gone. Now it's a series of direct, non-negotiable commands. At this point, the flight attendant is no longer a service professional. They are an agent of the captain, and they are enforcing federal aviation law.
And don't make any mistake about it, this is not a rare thing that only happens in movies. These are just a few real-world examples of what's known as air rage, where a passenger's behavior just spirals out of control.
I mean, think about the consequences. An entire plane, hundreds of people, might have to make an unscheduled landing in a totally different city. This costs a fortune and messes up everyone's travel plans, all because of one person's actions?
And what about for that passenger? Well, the consequences are severe. We're talking about getting arrested right there on the tarmac, facing massive fines and even jail time. The authority of the cabin crew is absolutely backed up by law enforcement on the ground.
And this, right here, is their ultimate responsibility. In these crazy moments, they're not serving drinks. They are the first and only line of defense, maintaining order and making sure every single person on board is safe.
So let's go all the way back to that list we started with. Diplomat, police officer, lifesaver. After looking at the playbook, these aren't just job titles anymore, are they? They are practiced, drilled, and totally essential skills for a job that is so much more complex than it looks.
So I'll just leave you with this question. The next time you step onto a plane and you're greeted by the cabin crew, what are you going to see? Just a service professional or someone who is quietly and expertly prepared for absolutely anything?